Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We always hear about the sacrifices our men and women in uniform make in service to our nation, but many do not understand that those sacrifices can leave a veteran in chronic, debilitating pain and with serious mental health challenges. In return for their sacrifices, we as a nation make a promise to, quote, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, unquote. The VA has regularly met the demands of that promise, but in recent history it has been with excessive, that has met that demand with an excessive practice of using opioids and psychotropic medication. In fact, in 2016, 13,928 veterans were prescribed a total of 85,729 opioid medications through the CHOICE program or through a combination of CHOICE and VA providers. Mr. Chairman, as the VA expands their partnership with community providers, we have found that these partnerships are challenged by the lack of critical health information sharing and conflicting opioid prescribing guidelines. Recently, the VA's Inspector General determined that these challenges put veterans suffering from chronic pain and mental health illnesses at particular risk. The IG also found that without timely sharing of information, VA community providers may not be aware of treatment plans and new medications. This gap in treatment care is risky for our veterans. My amendment tackles these challenges by requiring the VA to establish a process that ensures safe opioid prescribing practices by community providers and the timely sharing of a veteran's medical records. More specifically, it would require a copy of the VA's opioid safety initiative, are provided to all covered community providers, and that they certify that they have reviewed the prescribing guidelines. Additionally, if a veteran receives authorizing or community care, my amendment would require the authorizing document include the relevant medical history and a list of all medications prescribed to the veteran. Each community provider must submit opioid prescriptions for VA authorization to prescribe a limited number of opioids under contracted retail pharmacies or directly to the VA pharmacy. The VA must record each prescription in the veteran's electronic health record, and the VA must monitor the prescription as outlined in the VA's opioid safety initiative. Finally, should the VA determine community providers' prescribing practices are in conflict with VA guidelines, appropriate action must be taken to ensure the safety of all veterans receiving care from that provider. Mr. Chairman, the legislation before the committee today, H.R. 4242, the VA Care in the Community Act, is critical to bringing the VA into the 21st century and increasing timely access to quality health care for our nation's veterans. My amendment will simply ensure that that partnership with our community provider includes the sharing of critical health information and accountability in prescribing practices. As the IG stated, quote, the opioid epidemic has impacted veterans, and overdose deaths among veterans remain elevated when compared to the civilian population, unquote. My amendment will fight this epidemic. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your support, and I encourage my colleagues to support my amendment as well. I yield back the remainder of my time.
Thank you, gentlemen, for yielding us.